I'm Paul Levinson, and welcome to Light On, Light Through, episode 372, my review of The Greatest Night in Pop. Well, there's almost nothing quite as satisfying on the screen as seeing a documentary that shows you how something else you saw on the screen and loved was put together. And The Greatest Night in Pop does that with the 1985 video and recording, We Are the World. In part because our family was just getting started. In part because we cared about feeding people in need of food. In part because we were fans of so many of the artists who made that music. The video of We Are the World has been among my wife's and my favorites since the day we first saw it in March 1985. It still brings tears to our eyes, as did The Greatest Night in Pop documentary, which told the story of how We Are the World was made. That brought tears to our eyes many times. And as we were watching it on Netflix the other night, I realized what an important kind of new video and recording that 1985 performance brought into being. Not a concert of great artists, but rather a single song performed by great artists. The performance of George Harrison's As My Guitar Gently Weeps in the 2004 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions with Tom Petty, Stevie Winwood, and Prince, who, by the way, delivers the best guitar playing I've ever seen and heard, I think is in many ways even better than the original Beatles recording. And that performance owes a debt of gratitude to the way We Are the World brought together more than 2 score of artists, nearly 2 decades earlier, to make such eternal music. Prince, by the way, didn't make it to that recording, though he was very much desired, and The Greatest Night in Pop tells us at least a part of that story. It also shows how Dylan, not really getting how he fit in the recording, sung his part perfectly after Stevie Wonder did a good mimic of Dylan, singing like Dylan, the way that Dylan had in his heyday in the 1960s. Cyndi Lauper, understandably nervous in the company of such greats, belts out a great line and ends her part with a yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, much more energetic than that. And she wonders if that was okay. And she's assured by Quincy Jones that it was just right. The key of the song was, of course, right for some of the singers, but not quite for everyone. Bruce Springsteen, coming to the recording session with a hoarse voice just after a tour, sounds like he has, quote, broken glass, unquote, in his throat, as someone remarks. But it's just right for the subject of the recording. Michael Jackson, who co-wrote the song with Lionel Richie, wants to add a sha-la-la to the chorus. Smokey Robinson tells us in Current Time, when the documentary was recorded, how he had lots of experience working with Michael Jackson at Motown. And we see him walk up to Jackson in the We Are the World recording studio and talk him out of the sha-la-la. Diana Ross says how much she loved Daryl Hall singing. Who knew? Well, as you can tell by my enthusiasm for The Greatest Night in Pop, I think it's a treasure trove of nuggets in musical history, and I expect my wife and I will be watching it a lot more than once.
The Light on Light Through podcast.
And I hope you enjoyed this review of the greatest night in pop, the untold story behind We Are the World. It's now on Netflix. It's been up there since January 29th, 2024. I know I mentioned last week that I was going to put up a review, my review this week of season 4 of For All Mankind. Not to worry, I'll get to that in the next week or two. But I thought it would be good to sort of change up a little what I've been talking about most weeks on, Light Through, which is usually a review of some kind of science fiction movie or television series. And I hope you enjoyed this review of the greatest night in pop. You know, thinking about the world today, I think in some ways, many ways, it's gotten much worse than it was in 1985. Wars are happening all over. People are deprived of food again in many places in the world. And I think we have to keep doing, all of us, whatever we can to make the world better. Part of that means stepping up and doing what we can to get food to people who are starving. Part of it means stopping the fascist attack of Ukraine by Russia. Part of it also means doing what we can to stamp out the terrorists, in this case Hamas, the people who really are responsible for what's going on in the Middle East right now. So I know that view might offend some people, but I always am honest with you. I tell you what I think. And I'll be back here next week with another episode of Light On, Light Through. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sound, and keep doing whatever you can to make this a better world.
The Light on Light Through podcast.
Athens, 2042 AD. She ripped the paper in half, then ripped the halves, then ripped what was left again into bits and pieces of history that could have been. Sierra Waters had read once that, years ago, it was thought that men made love for the thrill, while women made love for the sense of connection it gave them.
Curled Up with a Good Book says, Sierra Waters is sexy as hell. You can find out more about The Plot to Save Socrates by Paul Levinson at theplottosavesocrates.com.
Paul Levinson Silk Code about an ancient biotech war raging on in secret for centuries.